Welcome to Breaking the Couch, a weekly conversation demystifying what happens in and behind the therapy scene to support your healing journey. We're your hosts.
I'm Dr. Dowdson, a licensed clinical professional counselor, a certified school psychologist, and a trauma specialist with Playfully Psyched.
And I'm Dr. Jo Harchi with Soft Art Psychology, a licensed clinical psychologist.
We're here aiming to provide you with mental health tools to address the cycle of generational trauma across the age span, from infancy and childhood to adulthood.
For more information, visit our Instagram page at Breaking the Couch or our website, breakingthecouch.com. While we hope you love listening to and learning from our podcast, it's not a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Okay, so we are back today to talk about play and young children and emotions and some of those things. Just to give the audience a little bit of background, one of the things that kind of sparked this conversation, of course, there are things that are going on in our clinical work, but also because kind of behind Dr. Joharti, for those who are just listening, is this book that she and I actually read together, and I had to read it for one of my practicum experiences way back in my training days. And it's called Unsmiling Faces: How Preschools Can Heal. We have the second edition by Leslie Kaplow. And I saw that in her background, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Kind of brought back some memories. And then sitting literally in front of me, and it's the same exact book.
Same book, same time. Yep,
Yep.
here we are,
I was
Unsmiling
like,
Faces
oh
book.
wow, look, it's like back on our radar a bit. So I thought that we would talk a little bit about children and play from that trauma perspective, that trauma lens, and help people who have children in their lives look at children a little bit differently, or reinforce some of the great things that they're already doing with young children, young people.
Yeah, I love the idea of any time that we can kind of debunk myths or misunderstandings and get people to have like a little bit more of that open channel of like understanding what their child is doing, especially through play. You are Playfully Psyched owner, right? So
Representative, CEO, yeah.
representative, yeah. So who better to talk about play with than you? Mhm.
Absolutely. Okay, so one of the things that pops up is this concept of our child is manipulating us. They have these manipulative behaviors. And one of my supervisors used to say this. She said it so fast and it was just the roll of her tongue, and I always appreciate it. When we use the word manipulation, we are really putting an adult descriptor on a child's behavior. Right? Manipulation really requires planning, forethought, and understanding of not just basic cause and effect, but longitudinal or long-term cause and effect, right? So if I do this thing right now and over time, then I'm going to eventually get to this point and be able to shape and change someone else's behavior. And honestly, the average person under like age 12 or 13 cannot do that.
Mhm.
Especially when we're talking about babies, toddlers, young children, those early elementary, they can't do that, right? They're just learning some of those basic cause and effect um, outcomes. And so how we break that down is really looking at, well, what is the child learning? What are you teaching them, right? To be a little bit, not too much finger pointing, but to be a little bit like, well, what are you teaching them in your environment? What behaviors or what actions are you actually reinforcing, right? And what are they doing in their play? Because children not only learn through play, but they practice and rehearse their outcomes in life in play. So that's how they solidify their learning, right? And it's also one way that they can heal when it's guided play, like play therapy with a registered or trained play therapist. But their play tells us a lot. And so what I mean by like breaking that apart, right? So let's just say, for example, you have a elementary school age child, and this child is really struggling with transitions, changes in their family structure. Maybe one parent has returned to working, something along those lines. And this child is their stability is now thrown off because now the schedule's a little bit different, right? Who's picking them up from school may have changed. What that looks like, the time they're eating dinner, all these things may have changed. And to us, we're like, oh, it's no big deal. We're an adult. But you
Sounds like
also
a big deal. Yeah.
sounds like a big deal to me too. But
Mhm.
people think, oh, it's this happens all the time. Well, just because it happens all the time doesn't mean it's happened to your child or this
A
child
absolutely.
all the
Right,
time,
right.
right?
That's a lot to change at once. Mhm.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean it doesn't have to happen, doesn't mean nothing like that.
Right. And also, most of the time as adults, not always, you had forewarning.
Right. Right, we have all
Right?
the conversations, we already know what we need to do, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's a
Mhm. And
totally
think about
different situation.
how much forewarning, right? Because you had to
Mhm.
think about like, oh, do I want to change my job or do I want to get a different new job? Or you went through an interview process or you submitted an application or someone reached out to you or whatever. All of that stuff as your brain, as you're preparing and thinking about the adjustments you're gonna have to make. And
Mhm.
then at some point you've made these decisions, it's gonna happen, and then you relay the information to the child. Oh, I'm going back to work, or oh, my schedule has changed, right? So then they have no forewarning.
Mhm.
Usually it's like, oh, here we go. This is now done. And then they have to adjust. So there's that adjustment period. And so let's just say in that adjustment period, they're struggling. They are, behaviors are becoming challenging at school, maybe. They're getting into fights at school, or they're talking back to the teacher, or they're not turning in, doing homework or classwork or something like that. Um, what do you do? How you respond to that can be reinforcing, hey, this is how I get more time with you because you were my stable place. You were my parents,
Mhm.
you were my stable place, right? And now things have changed, the schedule's changed, and I don't quite know how to get that time with you. I don't know how to make things stable again, right? And so I am frazzled and everything is kind of discombobulated. Oh, but when I act out, um,
Mhm.
you leave work early,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that feels really good. I missed you. I feel safe, right? Um, and you didn't communicate but when I was like showing you that I was scared or kind of acting out at home, it was like, oh, it was fine, right? That didn't change anything. So now it's basically saying I don't know how to communicate. I'm scared, I'm worried, things are hard, I don't know how to transition well because I'm a little child and I don't know how to say these things. But I
Yeah.
kind of figured out internally, like, oh, it feels really good when you get off early or when you come pick me up, right? um, and it doesn't feel really great when people are yelling at me in school. So like I'm just gonna have these feelings and then maybe you'll come, right?
So
Um,
it's not like a lot of forethought, it's not a grand master scheme to figure out how to get parent home or caregiver home.
not at all. Like even me breaking this down, look how slow the process. I'm like inch by like trying to break it down.
It's a
Okay,
really
so
good example. Mhm.
yeah, but for children, this is like
Mhm.
split second stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
it's reactionary. And
Yeah.
so I just took, 2 minutes or whatever breaking it down. But what I broke down in 2 minutes happens in milliseconds, right? Because it isn't this mindful master plan of manipulation.
And
Um,
depending on the age, they may not even be at the developmental stage where they have theory of mind or where they could see that they're even feeling that, or even
exactly,
notice that they're even thinking that, right?
exactly. So that's a key piece. But then it's like, okay, so like, fine. I'm looking at this as if my child is having this major transition and that it's something that is impacting them, right? Because we're looking at from that trauma lens, right? Major life transitions, things that can dysregulate your nervous system because it's drastic change. It's instability. Um, they might need some support around that, right? And that's sometimes where play comes in. Right? And having some time with a caring adult, a trusted and caring adult, where the child can actually just express themselves and be themselves. As we talk about play from the perspective of, you know, that's how children really communicate. That's how they learn, but it's also how they communicate. We can learn so much by watching them play, seeing what they invite us into play, right? Play is child's work. It's one of like the famous quotes we say in play therapy, right?
Mm.
Play is child's work. Um, and play, is so important for development, but it's also important for healing and for expression. And so allowing the child to like lead in the play and letting them do what they need to do, because again, in life people say, well, like they can't just do anything they want. No, your job is to keep them safe, for sure, right? Keep your things safe. It's okay if you don't want them like throwing things in the air. Absolutely. um and also it doesn't have to be a time where you're playing games by your adult rules or by the rules of whatever the toy or the game rules that have. The child can make up their own rules, um, and you just follow along with that,
Their
giving them.
imaginations are so expansive and it's I mean, you don't need me to say this, but like it's amazing to see where they could go with something, what they could tell us through play, you know?
Yeah, because they don't have the same access to verbal language um, that we do, cognitive language even, right? But they can play it out
It's so cool.
and
Yeah.
show us. And we can do my favorite, wonder with, right?
Mm.
Instead of like
Do
dumping a
people know
thousand.
what Wonder With
I'm going to
is?
do it, but instead of like dumping a
Okay,
bunch
I'm
of
like, "Ooh,
questions.
this one's really good." Mhm.
So
Mhm.
instead of dumping a bunch of questions, because sometimes, Dr. Hardy said it really beautifully, that creativity, that kind of going into their imagination and what they need to be expressing can be interrupted by a thousand questions.
I mean, you reminded me of this with, like, some of the teens I work with.
Mm-hmm,
So, like,
mm-hmm.
that questiony thing can provoke anxiety. So you
Absolutely.
reminded me, "Hey, you can wonder with a teenager when they're talking about video games." What?
Exactly.
So, yeah,
I
anyway, wonder with,
I
yeah.
wonder what yes, I wonder
Yeah.
with my adults, right? When
Yeah,
and
exactly. Mhm.
so wondering with, right, and instead of like asking, oh, what did you do? What are you feeling? What do you think about that? Oh, what is that? Oh, why are you playing with it like that? Oh, is this how I'm supposed to do it? Like, so just
Mhm.
typical play questions that people ask. It can be, oh, I wonder what's happening right here.
Mhm.
And just giving space and a pause. And then they can answer it or not. The
I
difference
love
between
that sometimes they don't. I think it's the cutest thing. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, okay, I could see why where wondering with was really helpful here, 'cause they
Mhm.
didn't have to answer." Mhm.
Exactly. Because with the questions, there is typically, at least over here in the US, right? There's typically a unspoken rule that questions demand an answer,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And we are considered rude or
Yeah.
unpolite or disrespectful or whatever if someone asks a question and we don't answer it at all.
There's that expectation that we like, even at 3 years old, like, "Okay,
Yeah.
she asked me a question, I better answer." Mhm.
Exactly, which takes over their play and takes them out of their, expressive
Mm.
process, their creativity, whatever they're in, right? Because you're interrupting what they're saying, right? But wondering, there is less of that demand to respond. You're just wondering, right? I wonder what they're doing over there. Just a wonder. Um, and sometimes, like Dr. Jardy said, sometimes they'll answer. Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, building, blah, 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 blah." And if they have those words, it's also, I love that part. Sometimes they won't, because what if they don't have the words? Or what if they don't know?
Mhm.
When we think
Mhm.
about trauma play, right? And sometimes children are going into a trauma memory or making sense of like, the adjusting and the transition that's happening in their life. They don't have the words to tell you. If they did, maybe they wouldn't be playing about it, right?
Mhm.
They don't have the words to tell you. So how is your question helpful? Who is it helping, right? Is it just for your own curiosity? Because that's what questions do, right?
Mhm.
Feed our curiosity. Um, but if it's not helping them at all, then maybe a wonder with is more appropriate, right? And allow you to just sit and watch and see what's happening. Um, let them invite you in. Let them pull your hand over. Let them say, "Hey, you do this part," and you do what they tell you to do, right? Within safety reasons, safety considerations. I think it's so important. And so I would say, always say, like, within safety considerations, because one of the things that come up for parents is, well, I'm just supposed to let them do anything they want, or they're going to walk all over me, or they're
No.
going to, right? Like, I can't set any boundaries or limits. No, not at all what we're saying, right? We are saying that these are times where, do those limits that you're normally setting on a everyday basis in this moment, in this play setting, matter? Is it realistic to think that for the 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes that you're playing with your child and you didn't correct them to say thank you about something, and you didn't tell them um, how to use a certain toy? This is one of the things that people come up with when they are like, I don't know how to play with my child, or I don't know how to play with kids. They'll, like, say, for instance, the child has a person, what looks like a person doll, a little figurine, and they're using that person like a car. A lot of times adults will say, oh, that's not a car, that's a person. They're
Mm.
supposed to stand up like this, right?
So you just, like, crushed the play for a second and started teaching. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And how was that helpful? And people say, well, because I need them to know that that's a person, not a car. Why? Do you,
Mm.
how many times are they going to see a person and how many times are they going to see or interact with a car? Do you
Yeah.
think that this 5, 10, 20-minute interaction is going to override them, what they see in, like, the real world?
Right, right.
I assure you it's not. And um and if they got confused, or if there's confusion somehow, they're like, go outside and, like, oh, they point to a person and say car. They Someone will say, oh, I'm a person, or someone will give them feedback. Oh, I'm a person, or I'm a whatever, right?
It'll get
Um,
cleared up. Mhm,
exactly.
mhm,
And so it's about going into the imagination, or going into it, viewing it from their world, because the imagination is active. And so in that moment, that is a car. They're not seeing a person like you are and, like, pretending the person is a car. They are seeing a car, and they are telling you a story or acting out something related to a car. So think about the
mhm,
missed opportunity, right? That you are experiencing if there was something that happened in a car, something car accident, scary,
mm,
someone touched them wrong way, whatever, that they could be trying to communicate with you, but you cut that off because you said that's a person, not a car.
mm.
And now they can't express what they want because they don't have the words, and you've just taken away their opportunity to show you through play.
Wow, so now you have me thinking about, like, a part 2 on this as far as, like, how you could go into your play with, your child or a child and kind of calm things down before you start playing with them, because if you're feeling questiony, at least that's how I feel sometimes, it's, like, questiony, or if you're feeling like, teaching might be a priority over playing in that moment, maybe we could come up with some ideas as far as, like, the ways that you could calm before. But as far as for what goes for today, I am so grateful that you shared Wondering With, that you debunked the idea of manipulation. I'm in complete agreement with you. I don't believe children manipulate. I love your article on playfullypsych.com as far as how babies don't manipulate. And it's true, they don't. They just,
They
children do
can't.
not they cannot, yeah. So, folks can go to that article to learn a little bit more, but I'm really grateful that you gave us a take-home tools as far as, like, wondering with and leading, following children in their play, and how big and imaginative and creative that can be, and how much they could share with us.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we were able to do that. And again, that book, Unsmiling Faces, we'll make sure that that is in our bookshop if it's not already. We are winding down on this farewell season, right, with Dr. Jaharti and Dr. Doughton. So if you want to know more, this is your last few opportunities before we release the rest of the episodes. Tag us in our stories on Instagram, leave us comments, send us a direct message. You can send us a message on Anchor. Of course, check out our bookshop that helps keep local bookstores alive, gives us a little kickback if you purchase from there. I think those are, oh, you can visit our website that has a little survey where you can say, hey, we want to talk about this. Again, we have like 6 more episodes left to record, I think, somewhere around there.
Mhm.
And so there is still time, but we're dwindling down. And so we're going to be saying, goodbye from Dr. Joe Harchi and Dr. Dalton. So for now, until next time.
If you are looking for a therapist for yourself or your child, you can visit our websites, playfullypsych.com or softheartpsychology.com.
We appreciate you joining us this week and can't wait till there's another opportunity to jump on the couch with you next week.